ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Tuesday, July 22nd. Your drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for being a part of today's show. Our text line is open and brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We've got baseball action coming up tonight, 6:45. The Coldcats in action, opening up the final homestand. It's a 6-game homestand tonight. We'll play host to the Bristol State Liners. 7 o'clock first pitch. We go on the air 15 minutes prior right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Coldcats coming into this one 14-23. Bristol is 16-22. Baseball yesterday, the Pirates got the win over the Tigers 3-0. It was the Nationals beating the Reds 10-8, and the Guardians got the win over the Orioles 10-5. And of course, we've also got TBT action tonight. Best Virginia in action, taking on Elite Nation. This is the regional final tonight, 7 o'clock. I'm not throwing shade on Best Virginia by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Elite Nation, they look good. I think Elite Nation beats Best Virginia tonight. Check in with me tomorrow, see how I did on that one. And if I got it wrong, I'll hear about it. But I think it's Elite Nation tonight beating Best Virginia. Too bad it's not heard that in action. It would have been great to see. We probably would have gotten John Elmore back and also Tavion Kinsey from the NBA Summer League. Honestly, I would have rather those guys been at the Summer League. To be fair, it would have been fun to see him take on Best Virginia. It would have been fun to see Tavion out there and Elmore once again. But to be completely honest, I'd rather those guys have success in the Summer League. They played for a championship, fell short, but still, that's where I want to see those guys at. So maybe next year we'll get a different batch of players. And of course, we talked about that yesterday with Ott Elmore, pretty much indicating this might be the final go-round for him and maybe a couple others, including John. We'll just have to see where those chips fall once we get to the TBT next year. So tomorrow is going to be media day for Marshall in the Sun Belt Conference media days. Today was the beginning, and it was the West Division today. We also heard from Commissioner Gill, and I've got some of his highlights from that. We're going to hear that in just a few minutes. I also sat through a lot of the pressers today, just kind of curious to see if I can pick anything out. There were a couple things that interested me. Butch Jones pretty much inferring that Marshall's team is now at Southern Miss. So, hey, no big secret there. Charles Huff picked up and left and took his team with him to Southern Miss. So Butch Jones wasn't calling him out, but basically saying, hey, look, Southern Miss, they're better than that 5th spot because they pretty much picked up and took Marshall's team and imported it into Hattiesburg. So that was an interesting kind of comment. I listened to a lot of what Coach Huff had to say, and Coach Huff, for the most part, was just on point. And I hope that the media in Hattiesburg enjoy him. He was pretty much Coach Huff. Nothing had changed there. He was on point when it came to just focusing on Southern Miss. And, he was asked about Southern Miss. Why Southern Miss? You could have been coming into today's media days as the target, the defending champion, and you got Coach with a little swagger. He was pretty much saying, "Am I not the winning head coach of the champion? I mean, I'm the champ, right?" He was kind of, that was the closest we got to anything talking about Marshall. But he pretty much focused on, hey, why not here? There's great support here. There's great fans. Football means more in the South. All the things that are bullet points, selling points. So nothing really earth-shattering that I want to really share in depth with you. If you watched it on ESPN Plus, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, you really didn't miss much. It was, again, more focused towards Southern Miss, but he didn't actually give you too much insight other than, hey, why not Southern Miss, and talked about all the good things there and the fact that they've got a plan. Him and his staff have a plan. It works. the plan works. It won a championship at Marshall. So to his credit, yes, it did. It worked at Marshall, and a championship was won. So that was some of the couple things that, I kind of picked up on. Nothing really earth-shattering. Coach was pretty much coach, just wearing a different tie color and talking about Southern Miss. So we'll hear tomorrow from the East Division coaches. So I'm looking more forward to that, since that directly impacts Marshall, including, of course, Coach Gibson. He'll be on hand. We'll have his comments tomorrow on the show. But we'll hear from Commissioner Gill in just a few minutes. Some of the things I picked out, including, why Louisiana Tech, his initial thoughts on how to get Sun Belt teams in the college football playoff. Basketball came up as a topic as well. So we'll get into all of that with you and then get your reaction to what the commissioner had to say. But don't let that stop you. You don't have to wait now. We've got the text line open. It's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Not much coming out of Marshall today. Tomorrow, more content, sure, because it's media day for the East Division teams. The only big thing coming out of Marshall today was more along the lines of sponsorship info. The deck has a name on the shoey. The deck is going to be known as the Dutch Miller deck. I will refer to it as the DMD, just for brevity here. The DMD now is basically your premium experience to Marshall football. And we've already talked about this in detail, so the only thing really announced today is that Dutch Miller is going to be the sponsor of the deck and what the deck gets you. You can get a parking pass if you have 2 deck tickets. If you buy 2 passes to the deck, that's going to set you back $5,000. You get sideline passes and you get parking as well, but 1 parking pass per every 2 deck tickets or deck passes that you buy. And if you've got a few $1,000s laying around and you want to upgrade your seating experience and you want to be catered and you want to have that deck atmosphere and have the opportunity to enjoy yourself, I say go for it. It's a great opportunity. It'll be a premium experience for Marshall fans, and that's what they're looking for, because a lot of this is going to fall right back on, hey, how much money can we generate for NIL? That's going to be the big challenge here. So there we go. It's sponsored. Hopefully this thing will raise a lot more money for the Thundering Herd, and that'll be money that will be well spent, hopefully, on name, image, and likeness, and, of course, revenue sharing. Those are going to be the big things that we see this point forward. And I will say this, one thing that Coach Huff did say in his remarks today, and 100% he gets it. The one thing, we tease a little bit, but I like Coach Huff. And the one thing about Coach is he gets it when it comes to what this new landscape is all about. And so he was highlighting to the Southern Miss media, or the media covering the West today, that, look, we have certain people come in and we have positions. We got to manage this thing. We can't overvalue players. We want everybody to be taken care of, but we can't overvalue players because you only have X amount of dollars here. So, he's pointing out, hey, you're not going to get what you think you're worth, but we're going to take care of you. And at the same time, you can't go and overvalue anybody. You just don't have that kind of money to throw around to overvalue anyone, especially since this isn't the NFL where you can work around a salary cap and you can work around the numbers a little bit more. These aren't players that you can spread it out, right? Can't lock anyone in. Hey, we're gonna pay you this, but we gotta have a 3-year commitment or something like that. I don't see that. I don't see the NFL model here in the college ranks. So we're going to hear from Commissioner Gill in just a few minutes, and then I want to hear from you. And our text line, again, for those of you just joining us, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. More coming up on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Think summer. Think sunshine. Lake days. Beach trips.
and all that sand, salt, and grime clinging to your car. That stuff doesn't just look bad, it can dull your paint, cause scratches, and even lead to rust. Protect your ride and keep it shining all summer long with a trip to Thoroughbred Express Auto Wash. Fast, easy, and built for real clean. Find a location near you by getting started at thoroughbredexpress.com. Join the winner's circle with Thoroughbred Express Wash, where your summer starts sparkling.
The soundtrack to your summer is back. Mount West 9th Street Live, downtown Huntington's favorite Friday night tradition. Presented by Michelob Ultra and White Claw. This Friday, July 25th, it's the Great Outdoors Marine and Tackle Night, featuring Souls of the Wounded on the Marshall OBGYN stage. Also, a special night supporting the restoration of the historic Keith Albee Performing Arts Center. Purchase a ticket to tour this iconic venue, see restoration progress, and enjoy a beverage while experiencing the magic of this legendary theater. Details at keithalbee.com/events. The Little Caesars Kids Zone is back, and Go-Mart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy food and drinks from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sip Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Mark your calendar for the Thundering Herd Rally August the 15th. 9th Street Live, driven by University Ford and built by Cardinal Roofing. Every Friday through Labor Day on 9th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Brought to you by Delta Hotels, Wendy's, Mountain Mindful, the City of Huntington, Marshall University, Blinko Glass Company, Marshall Health Network Arena, and Kindred Communications. Don't miss the fun.
The holiday may be over, but the stars, stripes, and deals at Cardinal Chevy keep on going. Hot new Silverados, 0% financing or save up to $13,000. New Equinox, $4,700 off. New Traverse, over $4,500 off. Plus up to 125% of KBB value for your trades. New ownership, improved processes, better deals. We're taking the market by storm. Visit our gorgeous facility right off I-64 and Hurricane or at cardinalchevy.com. Together, let's drive. See dealer for complete details.
Giovanni's has great Italian dishes. Spaghetti with meat sauce, lasagna, ravioli, manicotti, and baked lasagna. Giovanni's has the best sandwiches around, from the stromboli, Italian sub, calzones, and their signature Big Red. All dinners will be served with hot garlic bread or Italian rolls. Giovanni's Pizza, fresh, hot, and tasty. Have it delivered right to your door. Giovanni's, the Italian place to be.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-201-7676, 800-201-7676, 800-201-7676.
We're with Sue from Sue's Junk. Tell folks how they can sell their stuff on your parking lot.
You can sit out on the parking lot. On Wednesdays, it's free all day, $10 a spot, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
What's hot at Sue's Junk?
The top 4 things this week are Blinko glass, swung vases, uranium, and jar jewelry. It comes in every day and it goes out every day.
Sue's Junk and Antique Mall, 459 Camden Road in Huntington.
Hey, is that a faucet running?
Nope, that's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest.
It is?
Yeah, forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink. The water comes straight from the forest to us. In fact...
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
How do trees clean the air?
They soak up the dirty air on their leaves, branches, and trunks, which means clean air for us.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yep, but the forest does more than give us clean air and water. It gives us shade for hot days, birds to listen to, and trees to climb.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know how cool the forest could be. Hey, let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does, just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Follow at Paul Swann on X for Marshall sports updates and more.
Welcome back to our Tuesday edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line, Brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop is open at 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We'll get your responses in just a few moments. Today is day one of Sunbelt Media Days. Commissioner Gill opening up the media days before the coaches from the West Division got to speak all afternoon long. And there were a few highlights from today's proceedings. And, of course, the big question, obviously, is going to be about Louisiana Tech. He talked about Louisiana Tech, basically gave the boilerplate, all the bullet points, hey, the Sun Belt's rising, all the good things. The commissioner's not just going to go out there and say, look, this place is garbage. It's a wreck. We need help. None of that. He's going to highlight all. It's basically, he's almost as if he's reporting to the shareholders, but none of the bad stuff. It's just, hey, everything's good here. So highlighting everything that is good. The big question, of course, is about Texas State and then Louisiana Tech. And Commissioner Gill had some positive things to say about the Texas State situation. Of course, Texas State, a long-term member of the Sun Belt, and Commissioner Gill talked about what it's going to mean for Texas State to leave the league.
Yeah, Texas State's been a great partner, and I would say both to the conference, but I would say also to me personally, when I think about, when I first got here, Dr. Trouth was the chancellor there, and then Larry Tice was the AD, and now it's Don, and then it's Kelly, and I've had wonderful relationships with them. They have been great partners, great people to work with. So I think it's really a personal loss. I'm losing friends in some ways, although we'll stay connected and stay in touch. But I also think for the conference, they've been great. They have 2 bowls over the last 2 years, and it's been amazing in terms of seeing those crowds at the First Responders Bowl, in terms of what they've done. Their softball has been elite over the last 3 years. Their baseball has been solid as well. So we're losing a great partner, and they've been a great contributor to our success. And so we thank them for everything that they've done. We thank them for what a great partner they've been. And we certainly, wish them the best, kind of in their future endeavors.
So he's missing Texas State already because of the fact that they've been a good partner to the league. I don't think anyone else is really missing them. I don't think that the membership is sitting there going, if only we could have kept Texas State. They're a good program, but what you're losing is distance. You're losing distance, and that's not a bad thing. Keep this conference a little bit more form-fitting. But on the flip side, you're getting a third institution in the state of Louisiana. And Commissioner Gill talked about first, the timetable. You lose Texas State, and you didn't rush, but at the same time, you got this done pretty quickly. And he talked about the timetable as far as bringing them in. Could be in next year, could be in the following year. What's that going to look like if you're going to have logistics for a 13-team league? And obviously 14-team league is preferable than having the 13-team schedule.
It'll be interesting to see, when they actually join. That's an open question, and so Louisiana Tech will have some conversations with their kind of conference to kind of figure that out, and so we'll see how that progresses. I don't know that I know very much about kind of how that's going to work from here, but we'll be optimistic to see how it works. I think if we end up in 13, I think that is that'll be a challenge. I think scheduling football when you're odd is really difficult, and so that certainly means somebody will have to play 12 games in a row just because of the way it sets up and the way the math works. I think we would have to absolutely get out of division. So I think the challenges with that means that the East, because the West would be losing a game, would have to give up some games against their rivals to play teams in the West. So 13 is really a challenge, and so we hope we don't have to find out what that looks like. Well, actually, we know what it looks like already. We hope we don't have to implement that plan, because I do think it's a challenge in terms of the way the football schedule falls out. regional rivalries will be impacted in significant ways. Some of our schedule parameters, we try not to have people play more than 7 weeks in a row. Those things would be challenged as well. And so I think it's in everyone's best efforts if we all try to get even.
So you don't want a 13-team league even for a year, because now look at the Marshall schedule and think to yourself, if Marshall's got to lose a game, which game would it be? Would it be Appalachian State? Would it be Georgia State? Would it be Georgia Southern? Would it be Coastal Carolina? I mean, think about this. If you're looking at your schedule, and here's the big challenge. If you got to go 13, you might lose a game. Just kind of even this thing out a little bit. So now you could lose Marshall James Madison. That's a big matchup. You could lose Marshall App State. That's a big matchup. You could lose Marshall Georgia Southern. That's a big matchup as well. Then you get into Coastal Carolina. Okay, I'd be all right if that was gone for a year. I get that. I'd be all right. It wouldn't hurt me. Old Dominion, okay, you know what? We'll see you again. That'd be fine. I'm all right with that. Georgia State, I like those folks. But if you had to lose one for a year, okay, you know what? Georgia State, new rivalry compared to James Madison, that's just fire right there. App State, Georgia Southern, those are my big three. If I had to pick protected games, like, okay, you got to protect James Madison. You got to protect App State. You got to protect Georgia Southern. You can't take those away. That would just be wrong. Or maybe I would give one of those up to get a crack at Southern Miss. Like, okay, 13 games? All right. Okay, we got to give up App State? All right, good, fine. We get Southern Miss, right? Give me something. Schedule makers, you know what to do. If you got to go 13, give me Southern Miss. And it's got to be in Huntington. East Division teams are losing schools or losing games. You got make the West team travel. Like, okay, you need an extra game. East Division's losing a game with maybe a rival. All right, give us a home game here. And, oh, by the way, Marshall will take Southern Miss. That's kind of my thought on that. Now, the other thing that they talked about in regards to Louisiana Tech was just the ability to find a replacement so quickly. You didn't have to have this long, drawn-out process. Here's Commissioner Gill speaking on Louisiana Tech a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it speaks to the strength of our conference. I think at the end of the day, losing Texas State, they've been a great partner for our league, been very supportive to our growth, and so that is, obviously that's going to be a big loss, but we wish them the best as they move on to the Pac-12. But I think being able to add a school like Louisiana Tech, they have great tradition, they have great success, and it allows us to keep our momentum. It allows us also to double down on the things that we do really well, our regional rivalries, common sense geography, making sure that games with fans have interest, and they have a great tradition of success. They've been to a bowl game 8 of the last 11 seasons. They've got 3 40-win baseball seasons over the last 4 years. They've been to 3 regionals over the last 5. Success in softball as well, with 2 regionals since 2017. And then we can obviously talk about their tradition in basketball, both men's and women's in their history. So it allows us to kind of get better, and it allows us to do some of the things that we do well and keep our momentum going.
Basketball, that's going to come up a lot. We're going to talk more about that on the other side of the break. But before we hit the break, one more about La Tech. The question was asked, how quickly did the league settle on Louisiana Tech, and were there other schools considered?
Yeah, I think anytime you go through a membership transition exercise, you start with casting a wide net, so you don't have just one school that you focus in on. You really cast a wide net to kind of get a sense of who's out there, who's interested, who might make sense for you. And then you just start narrowing it down as you get to your data, as you look through various things, whether it's academic, athletic, where they're located, how the geography fits, those kinds of things. I think as you kind of work through that, I'll just call it inverted pyramid process, where you start really wide and you kind of funnel it into some kind of just a smaller pool I think Louisiana Tech makes the most sense. You lose a team from the West, replacing in the West makes some sense. Their geography, their tradition of success. So I do think it got easily to be a no-brainer as you work through the process. But we started very broad and then ended up in a place where that just made a ton of sense and was kind of a no-brainer.
Geography, that's the selling point right here. What made sense for the league. Geography won out, and Louisiana Tech, I don't think, brings vast improvement to the Sun Belt, but it doesn't hurt the league to bring Louisiana Tech in. The league didn't get worse. It didn't get much better, but it didn't get worse as well. So that's Commissioner Gale. We'll talk a little bit more about what the league's thoughts are from his point of view on basketball that was brought up. We'll get your text in just a few moments as well. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255 on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This summer, the fun heats up at Dave & Buster's. Introducing the all-new Summer Season Pass. Your ticket to unlimited gameplay all summer long. Now through Labor Day, choose the Silver Pass for unlimited weekday gameplay and 10% off food and drinks. Just $69.99. You want more? Upgrade to Gold or Platinum for weekend gameplay, up to 30% off food and drinks, and even weekly food vouchers. Don't miss out. Grab your pass today and level up your summer. Blackout dates may apply. Visit DaveandBusters.com for full details. The summer heats up at Dave & Buster's Huntington Mall.
Our Kendrick Communications family of stations reminds you of the need for blood donations to the Red Cross. Blood is always needed. It may save your life or the life of a loved one. This reminder is brought to you in part by
Sue's Junk and Antique Mall. Something for everyone. 459 Camden Road, Huntington, open 7 days a week. Tri-State STEM plus M. A top choice for students in Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia. Enroll now at tristatestem.com. And Serena Spa Aesthetics and IV Infusion. Look and feel your best. 1 Chateau Grove Lane, Barbersville, West Virginia. Phone 304-520-0461.
Think summer. Think sunshine, lake days, beach trips, and all that sand, salt, and grime clinging to your car. That stuff doesn't just look bad. It can dull your paint, cause scratches, and even lead to rust. Protect your ride and keep it shining all summer long with a trip to Thoroughbred Express Auto Wash. Fast, easy, and built for real clean. Find a location near you by getting started at thoroughbredexpress.com. Join the winner's circle with Thoroughbred Express Wash, where your summer starts sparkling.
Your store. Lean into that back-to-school shopping haul at Huntington Mall. We have all your favorite fits, but you don't have to tap, click, or swipe to get them. Just take a walk into the mall. It's all there. Fabulous stores with the brands you like. Want to see what's waiting for you? Visit the website, huntingtonmall.com. Then come in and haul away some fun.
Your stores, your mall, experience it all at Huntington Mall.
Looking for something more from your personal checking account? Then one of our new Community Trust Advantage checking accounts might be right for you. Our Advantage checking accounts offer great features such as ID Protect, roadside assistance, cell phone protection, travel and leisure discounts, and shopping rewards, which makes it easier for you to save money on everyday purchases. Learn more at ctbi.com. Get more out of your checking. Open an account today. Our friendly, professional staff at one of our many branches will be happy to assist you.
Community Trust Bank. Building communities built on trust. Member FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
It's the Hot Deals Cool Ride sales event at your hometown Chevrolet in Waverly. Right now, save big on a fresh lineup of Chevys. From fuel-saving sedans to dependable trucks and family-ready SUVs. As well as an exceptional selection of pre-owned vehicles. Looking to trade in? We're paying more than ever for quality vehicles. Need financing? We've got options that work for you. Don't miss it. Hot Deals Cool Rides happening now at your hometown Chevrolet. Off Route 23 in Waverly or at yourhometowNchevy.com.
Get ready for a summer of fun with Cats Baseball. This season, the ballpark is packed with action, giveaways, specialty jerseys, fireworks, and more. Experience the excitement and watch the future stars of Major League Baseball as they spend their summers playing in Huntington. The Cats are proudly sponsored by TikTok Tire, Sue's Junk and Antique Mall, Polka Valley Bank, K&B Pest Control, Bernie's RV, Huntington Children's Museum, Roosters, Go Mart, Fat Patties, 9th Street Diner, Jason Elkins State Farm, Griffith and File, and Benefit Design Services.
This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Miss an episode? Catch it anytime on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We continue on with today's edition of The Drive. Our text line brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Texter says, Paul, I was out of town yesterday. I didn't get a chance to listen to the show, but I'm proud of the shorthanded Heard That playing hard to the end and a close loss to West Virginia. Not sure who the couple of players were who skipped the post-game handshake, but I'm sure it wasn't the few here players that we actually had on the team. It was an example of poor sportsmanship, and I hope we don't invite them back next year. Appreciate the text. That's the one thing about the TBT. I get it. You have alumni teams representing schools. Heard that. It was the West Virginia Wildcats, I believe, before that. And, of course, then you had West Virginia, which was full of WVU players. And you got enough Marshall players to become Heard That. And so what's next for Heard That? I get it. You're trying to field pretty good teams, and you gotta fill in. You're going to the transfer portal, basically. It's like, hey, I know you didn't play at Marshall, but we need you for Heard That, and yeah, you played against Marshall, so maybe that counts, right? I like the idea of having the straight up the alumni team, and that's a cool idea. Yeah, it's an alumni team full of players that used to play at your school, but at the end of the day, I'm of two mindsets here. One, it's great to see some of those guys play, and would have loved to seen, and we've gone over this, I would have loved to seen Elmore out there and Tavia and Kinsey out there, but they're in the summer league, and that's where they needed to be. And so you're left with a lot of guys, some not Marshall guys, but they're where they Heard That, so you root them on, you cheer for them. But it wasn't like West Virginia beat Marshall. It's not like that, really. You had a few guys that went to Marshall. You had some guys that went to WVU. You got Jared West. He's with his father on West Virginia. He's a Marshall guy. Could have been on Heard That, but he's with his dad. So, and I get that completely. Blood sometimes is thicker. At the end of the day, though, it's a fun tournament. It definitely saved our souls back during COVID. And I'd love to see it continue, and it will continue. And maybe there's going to be a Marshall alumni team representing all the fans. But as you heard Ott say yesterday, it's getting more expensive to enter this thing. It's getting more costly to bring players in to play. And if it wasn't for the fact that it was in Charleston, you might not have seen Heard That this year. So what it's going to look like in the future, I don't know. And if you want to support Heard That, because they're seeking donations and they're always looking for underwriting ways to sponsor the team. You want to pay for this stuff. If you're a big fan of this, absolutely throw some money their way. Help them out. If you're getting the value out of it, hey, look, I want to help this team move on. I want to help this team continue. So, I'm going to sponsor this team, or, I'm going to make a donation. Every little bit helps. And if it can continue to go and continue to be a thing next year, that's great. Now, if it goes away, would I be a little sad? Probably. But now, more than ever, with the way college athletics has become so money-driven, if you've got to make a decision between, all right, I want to donate to Heard That, I want to help those guys out, but I also want to donate to Marshall basketball. I got to make sure that the Herd's got enough money. I'm a fan. I'm not just giving them cash. Maybe I am, but I'm donating. I'm becoming a member of the Big Green. I'm gonna buy season tickets. I'm gonna join, in with other Herd fans and fundraisers, all kinds of things, and I want to put my money there. If you've got extra, sure, but I don't know how long this thing can go. How much longer could this iteration of Heard That go, or will there be a new look Heard That, drastically new look? And when does it become? Their name Heard That, but they're not necessarily Marshall guys. When does that change to Okay, they got a couple of guys that are Marshall guys there, and they've brought in some other guys. If you keep it mostly Marshall guys, I think it's great. It's fun. You get to see some of your former favorite players of particular years. I mean, one day maybe Obina and Achille Killen's playing for this team. Who knows? Maybe Tavion Kinsey's playing for this team. Who knows? I mean, this is basically a few weeks of your life recreational, and a lot of the Marshall players that can play ball are probably overseas, making their way through the summer league, and you got a Tavion Kinsey doing that. So there's a lot that goes into this, and if there is a team next year, yeah, you got to look at who you bring in. After all, if you're saying you represent Marshall by calling yourself Herd that, then you got to be able to go out there and be a representative. Marshall fans expect you to be what am I looking for here? If you're representing Marshall, you go shake someone's hand if they beat you, right? Go do that. It's just a game. Shake that man's hand. He beat you fair and square. Shake that man's hand. Be a good sport about it. You got to play some basketball. You got to play basketball on TV, and you got to play in front of fans. And so the other team won. Shake that man's hand. Congratulate him, and be proud of what you were able to do. All right, we got to get the break in. Text line's open. We're going to hear more from Sunbelt Commissioner Keith Gill when we continue on today's edition of The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
Update your home with new gutters and save big money on everything now at Menards. Gutters are essential for controlling rainwater runoff, protecting your home's foundation, and keeping basements dry. White, brown, and black aluminum gutters are in stock and ready to take home today. Aluminum gutters are on sale now in store or on Menards.com. Plus, check out more of the great deals going on now.
Save big money at Menards.
The soundtrack to your summer is back. Mount West 9th Street Live, downtown Huntington's favorite Friday night tradition. Presented by Michelob Ultra and White Claw. This Friday, July 25th, it's the Great Outdoors Marine and Tackle Night, featuring Souls of the Wounded on the Marshall OBGYN stage. Also, a special night supporting the restoration of the historic Keith Albee Performing Arts Center. Purchase a ticket to tour this iconic venue, see restoration progress, and enjoy a beverage while experiencing the magic of this legendary theater. Details at keithalbee.com/events. The Little Caesars Kids Zone is back, and Go-Mart Happy Hour starts at 5. Enjoy food and drinks from the Marshall Hall of Fame Cafe, Sip Downtown Brasserie, and Summit Beer Station. Mark your calendar for the Thundering Herd Rally August the 15th. 9th Street Live, driven by University Ford and built by Cardinal Roofing. Every Friday through Labor Day on 9th Street between 3rd and 4th Avenues. Brought to you by Delta Hotels, Wendy's, Mountain Mindful, the City of Huntington, Marshall University, Blinko Glass Company, Marshall Health Network Arena, and Kindred Communications. Don't miss the fun.
Do Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keep coming back? Tremfya guselkumab may help, with rapid remission achieved at 12 weeks and lasting clinical remission at 1 year. Some even saw visible improvement of their intestinal lining at 12 weeks and 1 year. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Healing is possible with Tremfya. Approximately 3 out of 10 patients were in endoscopic remission at 1 year, based on areas visualized on colonoscopy, which may not represent the deeper bowel layer or entire GI tract. Individual results may vary. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
The Tri-State is quickly learning that the bow tie means a better buy, and I've got July 4th deals all month long. Number one selling F-150, now up to 10 grand off, 0.9% financing, or just $499 a month. Explorers up to $5,500 off. Mustangs up to $7,500 off. Plus, get up to 125% of KBB for your trade. New ownership, improved processes, better deals. Better deals. Visit University Ford in Huntington or at universityfordwv.com. See dealer for complete details.
Hi, I'm Nori, and over the years, my mother and I have opened our homes to those who need it most, and it's been so rewarding. I bet you didn't know that some adults who have unfortunately been mistreated need a place to call home in West Virginia. It happens more than you know. They may have some physical or mental limitations, and they need your help. Everyone deserves a place to call their own. I can tell you from my experience, it's worth it.
If you have an open heart and want to open your home, Adult Family Care may be the right fit for you. Call the Department of Human Services and ask to speak to an Adult Family Care Home Finder at 304-269-6820. Sponsored by the West Virginia Department of Human Services, the West Virginia Broadcasters Association, and this station. This project is supported by the Administration for Community Living, ACL, of the United States, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, as part of a financial assistance award totaling $1,227,345, with 100% funded by ACL HHS. The contents are those of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of, nor an endorsement by ACL HHS or the U.S. government.
Hi, this is Dave Wilson, host of Metro News Talk Line, and you're listening to The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We continue on with today's edition of The Drive here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Our text line brought to you by Clark's Pump and Shop, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Today is the first day of the Sunbelt Media Days in Louisiana. Commissioner Gill opening up the media days with a State of the Union, also taking some questions. We've got some highlights from the event. Earlier on the show, we talked about the addition of Louisiana Tech, why it made sense. One thing that came up a few times, and of course, Commissioner Gill, he's going to be very important come basketball season, selection committee. He's going to be the chair. One thing that I think needs a lot of work in the Sun Belt is basketball. So that was addressed today, and Commissioner Gill was flat out asked, where do you see the strength of the Sun Belt right now? Where is it good? Where is it not?
So the way I would think about it is I do think the conference has gotten stronger. I would like to see us be more consistent year over year. And really having more top 100 net teams in a consistent basis. I mean, we've fluctuated a lot in that regard, making sure that we position ourselves in the best possible seed to win NCAA tournament games. So I think there's a lot of work that we can still do to improve our basketball. But I do think we have gotten better. 2 years ago, JMU beat Wisconsin. That's improvement in terms of they had a seed where you could win a game. When you get to be a 12 seed and you have a 30+% chance to win a game in that regard. And so that was something that we want to do. So what I would say the results are mixed. I think we have gotten better in some areas, but we need to be more consistent. And I think it's something we talk about every day. So we're looking to schedule more home games. Home games are important. Division I teams win 70% of their games at home. And so the more home games you have, the more opportunities you have to win. Looking at how we schedule in terms of what kind of opponents that we have, looking at our own conference schedule to see if we can help schools in terms of their ability to build winning schedules in terms of how your travel falls and those kinds of things. So we continue to look at it all the time. We have a basketball strategic plan that we're working through. We're certainly going to take some time to update it because the environment has changed since we put that plan together. But we certainly feel good about our progress, but we certainly could be more consistent.
And a follow-up to that, again, Commissioner Gill speaking with the media earlier today, Sunbelt Media Days for football, is how do you improve from one bid status? That's the big thing. You can have all the good intentions, but at the end of the day, right now the Sun Belt's just a one bid league, like many leagues. And how do you improve that?
I think one of our goals is to improve our seeding. So seeding is really important in terms of giving you an opportunity to win. And that magic line is really the 12 seed. When you start getting 12 or better, you start having more kind of opportunities to win. And that's where you see more upsets. And then I think having multiple teams is something that's really important to us. So it's another reason why, I think if the NCAA, I'm glad the NCAA and the men's basketball committee is looking at expanding the tournament because that can only help the Sun Belt, and so whether we figure out a way to do that in a way that makes sense, we'll see. But I think those opportunities will certainly help us in our quest to get more at-large bids.
Because right now, this league is just one bid. That's it. If you're Marshall and if you don't win the Sun Belt Conference tournament, you're pretty much sitting at home. And to be fair, I don't know if I want to see Marshall go anywhere else. I'm not a big fan of these other tournaments, and I get it. Oh, it's more basketball. No, it's fine. I don't really have that much interest in that. The NIT, maybe that's about it. And even then, the NIT kind of felt different this year. And then you have all these auxiliary tournaments. And so how do you get excited for playing in some of these tournaments that are – you're not playing for the national champion. You're not in March Madness, really. You're not in the NCAA tournament. And so that's definitely a downer, the opportunity to play more basketball. Okay. I mean, if that works, great. But the goal is the NCAA tournament. Anything else is just, hey, it's a consolation prize. And, remember Bob Pruitt said, we play for championships. I don't think he said we play for consolation prizes. Speaking of playing for championships, one thing that came up a couple of times was the college football playoff. And one thing that Commissioner Gill highlighted was working on strength of schedule, because if you're in the Sun Belt, you don't have one dominant team that can just win its way up to an automatic bid like a couple of other leagues. And, of course, the Sun Belt expanding, and you have more opportunity for wins and losses. Because this division, the East, and I'm sorry, Coach Huff, he's wrong. He said the West was the best. No, the East is the best. The strength of schedule, how do you improve that? How do you work to get to the point where you can get into the college football playoff was a subject that Commissioner Gill addressed.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about the CFP process right now is they're really taking a look at strength of schedule. And I think when you look at our conference from top to bottom, our strength of schedule, particularly amongst our peer conference, is second to none. And I think that's going to give us an advantage in terms of those metrics. It's really hard to get through the Sun Belt and be undefeated. And so if that's the expectation, it's going to be a challenge, because week in and week out in this conference, you're going to be playing some really, really difficult opponents. And I think strength of schedule is going to help level that playing field for the Sun Belt and create some opportunities. We got great coaches, great students. We play really good football, but it's a really tough football. And we talked about being 13. One of the issues about being odd in the Sun Belt is you can't play 12 straight games and go undefeated in this conference. It just isn't going to happen. And so I do think the strength of schedule changes and some of the things that the selection committee are looking at, hopefully implementing this year or the following, will be something that will help us, because our conference is so difficult and so much tougher.
That's Commissioner Keith Gill. Sunbelt Media Days continue tomorrow. We'll hear from Tony Gibson and any highlights from tomorrow's activities. Our text line, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Also, you can find me on X. That is at Paul Swann. And, of course, podcasts will be available later tonight on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget, baseball action coming up tonight. The Tri-State Coldcats, final homestand of the season. 6 games at Jack Cook tonight, playing host to the Bristol State Liners. 6:45 is our airtime here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Coldcats coming to the game 14-23. Bristol coming into the contest 16-22. So Coldcats are 8.5 games back. 6 games to go in the home stand. Let's hope that the Coldcats finish strong. And tonight is country music night, and there will be a pregame concert by Ashland's very own Rob McNerlin, the Beatnik Cowboy. That is what's happening tonight at the ballpark. And if you can't make it, don't forget, you can listen to the game right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. And, of course, we'll also, I'm sure some of you will be watching Best Virginia taking on Elite Nation tonight. And the TBT, La Familia will be in action tonight in the Lexington Regional Final. And then Carmen's Crew taking on Fort Wayne Champs in the Indianapolis Regional. So you've got a lot of basketball action tonight. And, of course, you got baseball action. You pick your poison. You got something. It's going to be, they say these are the dog days of summer. We got a lot going on. So, of course, football is almost upon us, so we'll be wall-to-wall soon with that. But we got a lot that's still going on. So I don't subscribe to that, the dog days of summer. But at the same time, with football season comes fun. I'm looking forward to it. Even Bengals football, looking forward to that. Unfortunately, I'm not looking forward to the contract fights that's still to come. Still trying to get Trey Hendrickson signed and Shamar Stewart. The Bengals would be near unstoppable if that team could just get a defense. Joe Burrow can go with anybody offensively. Defensively, you need Hendrickson and you need Stewart. You got to anchor that defense. And unfortunately, that's the big focus, and they're not getting it done. Don't forget, just as a side note, Bengals football returns right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. That's going to do it for the show. Thanks for being a part of it. I'll be back with you tomorrow here. Until then, you can always go back if you missed something and catch it on the podcast. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Broadcasting from the Dave & Buster's studios. Eat, drink, play, and watch at Dave & Buster's in the Huntington Mall. ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. WRBC, W231BS Huntington.